Hey, what's happening? It is, 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. So this is going to be evergreen, so it doesn't really matter what time it is. I'm just glad you're here watching. My name is Matt. That's me. And I'm here because, I'm trying to transition Generator from being recorded interviews to something a little bit more live. So I want to be running live shows from the middle of December through perpetuity instead of doing a recording of an interview. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Instead of doing a recording of an interview and then doing all the post-processing and all the editing and everything that goes into it, I was just like, nah, man, I don't want to be doing all of that all the time. I want to be able to go live to tape, as they call it. I want to be able to record an interview, have it go live, have it be edit free, one shot, one take, whatever you want to call it, live to tape. I want to be able to do that going into 2026. So for the next couple of weeks, you're going to see me doing all of this and figuring out what works and what doesn't. So this is me trying to do certain things like add a comment in, right? And so Paul is here watching me. Hey, Paul, what's happening, man? Look at me. I'm doing the thing, right? So this is going to be me testing a handful of stuff. I want to test some screen sharing. I want to test some graphics like that with Paul. I want to be able to record all of this and then be able to also take what I'm doing here and make shorts out of it so that I have more repurposed content. I want to be able to do things like show a secondary camera angle and control everything from my Stream Deck. I want to be able to do things that give it a much higher production value. And you've heard me talking about this, but it's all little bits and pieces. How can I get better one show after another by changing one little thing here and there? So today, for example, what I was doing was changing my lights a little bit and reprogramming the Stream Deck and understanding what's going on behind me and using some of that color science to make things feel a little bit better. So I set up a couple of different scenes. One of them being more of this kind of like whitish background. It's almost like a gray-green back there. But the two lights, the two practicals that I have, this cage light and then this tall light over here, I'm just keeping those as kind of general, 33,000 Kelvin, thereabouts 2,700 Kelvin, where it's going to be a lot warmer, but then I can change all of the other accent lights so that we can cycle through a handful of different scenes. Now, something weird is going on, and this is the whole point of testing, is that as I press on the Stream Deck, changing it to blue, what happens is sometimes all of the lights that I want to change. Some of them don't. If I go to green, well, they're all changing. If I go to purple, they're all changing. If I go to beige, they're all changing. So it seems to be working okay. Me personally, for something like this, I like the blue background. But if you notice, this side over here, still all purple. So I got to press the blue again on the Stream Deck and have it go to blue. So there's a bug in the system there somewhere, which I'm going to write down. Stream Deck color bugs. And that's kind of what we do, right? It's not about getting it perfect for everybody out there. It's about showing you how everything gets made. And I want to start bringing you in so that you understand what's happening here, right? This is just a home studio. This isn't meant to be anything other than, this started as me hosting the Artist Forge on Clubhouse 5 years ago. And I was sitting in front of my iMac and I had like one light, or maybe I was even just using window light, and it looked terrible. But over the years, I've gotten better equipment, change things, learn things, hung out with people that know how to do this way better than I do. Even though I've been doing video forever, I am just scratching the surface of what can be done out there. And Paul says, love it. I'll be testing. I'm going to move this down here. Love it. I'll be testing things soon right behind you. Man, I can't wait to see what you do. I really can't. I think if anybody knows Paul, he's going to be doing some incredible things. We worked through his studio last week. We talked about things, how to set them things up. He's got a whole bunch of stuff in store. If you have the chance, go follow him, especially if you have older relatives that might need some care in the future. Make sure that you're following Paul Fath, because he's going to give you a lot of stuff that you might be able to use, not only in your own life, but for those that you care about. So be on the lookout for Paul. So yeah, this is kind of what I've been doing today. I'm going to see if I can zoom out here a little bit and show you the secondary camera. So up here is my key light, which is a lantern modifier. It is an Amaran 200 in an aperture lantern. I think it's a 30 centimeter lantern or something to that effect. 30 inch, whatever it is. So got that up there. I've got a secondary light over here, which is a light panel, and that's just doing a little bit of fill on this side. And then behind me, everything is kind of the same. But what you're looking at right now, this camera right here, this is the YOLO S3, the YOLO Cam S3, YOLO Live, YOLO Cam, whatever you want to call it, whatever people are calling it these days. YOLO S3. Now, this is basically the new hotness in webcams, and it really is just that. It's a 4K webcam, and it's about that big. I would grab it for you, but it's sitting right there. This thing was $200. I got it on Black Friday, and I'm so ridiculously impressed by this camera. I was able to get this, hook it up, throw it on one of these little Ulanzi stands, right? Which is just kind of like a little travel tripod. These things are awesome as it falls out of my box. These things are great because they are small, little travel tripods, and you can use these pretty much anywhere. So I love traveling with these. So anyway, I put the YOLO Live camera over there. I'm going to be using it primarily as a secondary camera like this. I'm going to be bringing it to the studio where I have my primary studio. I've been setting up different sets. I've got a 2 or 3 person set with a couch. I've got a single set with a table where I can just do some tabletop reviews like this. And you're saying, well, you're not saying this, but I'm going to project this onto you. You're saying that, Matt, why are you having 2 studios? Well, it's winter in Maine. So there's inevitably going to come a time where I won't be able to get out of my driveway because of snow. So I set up this studio at home to be able to still do this, stay consistent, keep producing content, even when I can't be at the studio. Now, I haven't been producing at the studio because last winter, I just didn't find myself going in all the time. And snow being what it was, I just couldn't find a consistent schedule. So recommitting to everything for 2026, making sure that I'm building things out in a smart way that make things really efficient so that I can go from an interview straight over to doing maybe some additional content or recording an intro or additional content with a different scene behind me. So I'm trying to set up things to make my workflow better. If you're not doing things to improve your workflow, if you're not taking a real hard look at what it is that you're doing day to day with your workflow, with your systems, with your SOPs, whatever you want to call them, if you're not creating systems that allow you to walk away from your business, then you don't have systems yet, and you don't have a business yet. So you've got to be able to create systems that you can write down in such a cohesive way that you can hand that to someone and say, here's how I produce a podcast. Here's how I do my editing. Here's how I edit photos. Here's how I set up a recording or a live stream. You've got to be able to work through the bugs, write down your system, and then make it repeatable. If it's not repeatable, if you're doing different stuff every week, kind of like I'm doing right now, then it becomes unmanageable. And one of the things that I found after a couple of years of recording Generator now is that, yes, the information that I put out seems relatively consistent, but my process going into it is very inconsistent. Interactions with my guests are all automated. All of the recording, all of the invitations, all of the recording, all of the back and forth preparation, understanding what the guest will need to do and what their expectations are going to be coming into the podcast, then all of that is automated. Once we get into the interview, everything is set up and going great. Post-interview is where everything just falls apart, because sometimes I'll immediately start making a transcript. Sometimes I'll just immediately start recording an intro. Sometimes I'll get into show note descriptions or Canva thumbnails or something. And I don't like being inconsistent. Let's see. I'm just going to check the comments 1 second. This is great. Paul's definitely coming to Maine for a visit. Anybody that wants to come to Maine, if you want to see the studio, if you want to come here to the house, we got to be on a first name basis if you're coming to my house. But on any day, if you want to visit the studio, get in touch with me. Let me know. I'm more than happy to give anybody my time. Come into the studio, do photographs, understand video. Let's talk about lighting, whatever it is that you want. Just come on up. Just know that I'm not close to you, no matter where you live. I'm not close to you. All right. What does Paul say? Next time the team come to Massachusetts in the summer, we're coming to me. You better, man. Like, I will be really upset if I can't get the Ecamm team up to Maine for a meetup or a studio day or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, all of this is with the intention of making 2026 a huge pivot year. So with that comes goals, right? What are we looking at for goals for 2026? And, some people wait until January 1st to start doing their New Year's resolutions and to start making their goals and to say, I'm going to, go to the gym and I'm going to start saving some money and I'm going to spend more time with my family. I'm going to spend less time on my phone. It doesn't matter. Doc Rock calls them temporal boundaries, right? Where we're making our boundaries based on a time frame. Oh, I'm going to go to the gym starting on Monday, or I'm going to do my resolution starting January 1st. How often does that stick, right? The best time to start anything is the second you think of it, just start doing it. For decades, I've been held back by overthinking and perfectionism. And I finally got kind of sick of it. I got tired of feeling like time was just passing. I got tired of feeling like everything that I was doing was just one step away from being real, coming to fruition. And so I've been battling that for years, all this unspoken fear, I guess. Maybe it's fear. I'm sure a part of it's fear. I'm sure part of it's shame. I'm sure part of it is the atypical part of me, part of my inability to move forward unless something is perfect, right? Those of you that are Gen X like me might understand what I'm talking about, because we've bridged the gap between follow the rules, corporate America, traditional ways of living, to now there's no fucking rules anywhere. Just live your life, be you, right? So what I'm trying to do is get rid of a lot of that old thing. And breaking those habits, man, that's hard. Trying to break habits that are ingrained in you, the things, these thought patterns that you've been carrying with you your whole life about it's got to be good enough, or it's got to be perfect, or I'm not going to go live until I have all my graphics and all my just do the thing. Because I'm telling you, you're going to learn more from trying and failing than you're ever going to learn just by trying to think it through. And so for 2026, there are some goals, right? With I have to start thinking about where are all of my revenue streams coming from? And I had everything written down. You're looking at it. This is part of my life, right? So if I'm looking for the list that I have in terms of the stuff that I'm trying to do, there are, I don't know, lists somewhere. I've got them. Couldn't tell you. No idea. They're on a list on a legal pad, kind of like this. Don't know where those papers are. I had them earlier today. And this is just what happens in the brain, right? So let's see, did I put them over here? Sure did. All right, found it. Cool. So I was breaking it down the other day, and I wanted to go through all of the revenue streams that I try to create income with, right? Because being an artist isn't just I get to go take wonderful photographs of people every day. That doesn't do enough for me, especially where I'm located, right? And I don't like blaming my location, but it is what it is. So where I'm at, I need a lot more revenue streams. So this is what I have going at any given time. Stone Tree Creative, doing portraits, personal branding, doing commissioned fine art, doing videography for businesses, doing Airbnb stuff, meaning listings for real estate agents, as well as individual homeowners that are renting through Airbnb. I do aerial stuff, right? So that's all on the Stone Tree side. I also sell templates and digital goods in the 17 Hats marketplace. I'm a 17 Hats ambassador, so I have some digital goods in their marketplace, templates and workflows and whatnot. I'm part of the Amazon influencer program, so I create videos around some of the products that I have and, earn commissions, affiliate stuff, influencer types of videos. I've got Generator. Right? So Generator is something that I've been back and forth on the monetization, back and forth on the sponsors. And the reason being, I think I've wrestled with this, right? So when I still had Firelance Media and I was seeing everything that was happening in the defense industry, and I saw a lot of people get sponsored by companies. And these were competitive shooters. These were influencers. These were podcasters. These were magazines. I worked in the magazines for quite a bit. And I found that when you start to get sponsorships, now, let me talk about how it was versus how it is. How it was people would get into these brand deals. They'd get into these sponsorship deals where company X, Acme, is going to give someone like me $500 to do a podcast episode and feature their ad in it. Whatever. I'm using random numbers, right? So don't count this as doing a masterclass on sponsorship here. But what it was, you have this blog or magazine or the YouTube channel or whatnot. And whatever company finds you, says, hey, they've got an audience. Let's use that channel to do some sponsorship. And they start working together. What I found inevitably was that the voice changed. Something changes there when the money starts to flow. And it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just how you take that money and decide what you're going to do with your content. Is it just, hey, this video is Generator Live and it's sponsored by Apple, not sponsored by Apple, by the way, but sponsored by X company. Inevitably, you start to say things and that company, Acme, may say, well, we don't really like what you're talking about, or maybe you could say it this way. That's where I started seeing things go downhill. When the company uses your channel as their advertising channel and then has the expectation that they get a say in the content that you produce, right? And it's all up to you as the content creator how you want to approach that situation. I know what I saw were a lot of people that were not savvy with their brand deals, and they just became a marketing arm for these different companies. So when it comes to Generator and sponsorship of Generator, while I would love to monetize via sponsors, I want to make sure 1000% that I don't tell you anything that's not true. I don't want to be pushing products on you that either A, I don't believe in, B, I don't use myself. I don't want to just get free stuff and shill for whatever company, being a Ricky Bobby with the suit with all the patches on it. I don't want to be a NASCAR. What I want to be is someone that is able to bring you products and services that I use, that I believe in, that I think the companies are run by good people and might give you an advantage in whatever type of business that you're putting together. So with that, we're still talking revenue streams here. With that, with Generator, my plan is to use Generator to not only have a couple of ads here and there for some of my affiliate relationships and some of the brand deals that I already have in place, but I also want to use it to sell things on my side, my digital products, my merch, right? Different services that I have, mentoring, education, one-on-one sessions, anything from video, photo, especially podcasting, right? Setting all this stuff up. That's where I believe if you have a podcast, not only are you more genuine by doing that, I think it also builds more trust. I can spot someone shilling for a company 1,000 miles away. It's very greasy. It's very inauthentic. It's not real. And I see it a lot. And it just kind of makes me cringe a little bit. So you do you, however you want to handle the sponsorships. But for Generator, I'd really like to use it as a marketing vehicle for myself and pitch some of my other things. Not in an offensive way, just an ad at the beginning or an ad at the end. That's about it. All right. Other revenue streams. You heard me kind of poke at this. Mentoring in education. The YouTube channel, right? Trying to monetize the YouTube channel and thinking about how do I create enough content to pull in the audience, to raise the numbers, to build the mailing list, to start to reach out to brands that I do want relationships with, or brands can reach out to me because they see something perhaps in the content that I'm creating that they would like to be part of. Totally open to all of those conversations. Speaking of affiliates, there are several that I'm pitching for now, right? So we've got affiliate deals, like I said, Amazon. We've got 17 hats, Boris FX, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. I was able to play with their 2026 version of the software, help them launch that very small part. Believe me, I'm not a coder, but I was able to do some of the pre-release testing of the software that came out yesterday, Monday, I should say. And I'll show you some of that. I'm going to show you kind of what Boris FX 2026 looks like here in a second. Ecamm, everything that I do as I produce this podcast is using Ecamm. Ecamm, for me, solved all of my live streaming issues. I was using all of the other software that was out there, Riverside and StreamYard and bunch of I was trying OBS, but OBS didn't really work. Ecamm really is the only one that was flawless for me. The only time that I've ever had a problem with it is when some other piece of equipment fails, not the software. My camera, the lights, the computer, something, but not the software itself. So having that peace of mind with a piece of software that is truly amazing, full on $100,000 production studio capability in software that's $32 a month it's a no-brainer to have it. And if you weren't able to take advantage of the Black Friday sale, which is like 40% off for new people, they always have deals. And you know what? In the show notes here, I'll even put my affiliate link. I'm not going to pitch it right here, but you find that affiliate link, sign up, and it helps me. I truly believe for the Mac, this is the best possible streaming software that you can have. And being on kind of the inside and seeing what is coming from Ken and Glenn, the developers, the founders of Ecamm, what's coming down the line in terms of features is off the charts. I can't wait for you to see some of the things that are coming, especially those of you that live stream like I do. So that's another revenue stream for me, is Ecamm affiliates. I do have a Patreon that I don't put any time into. I was playing with that whole crowdsourcing, crowdfunding revenue stream thing, and it was just kind of like, I don't need another place to go, but it exists out there if you're searching on anything. I've got revenue streams. Remember, we're still talking revenue streams. The book that I wrote on interviewing, which is still in process. It's called Speak Less, Get More. And I'm in the process now. I'm almost done with editing the final version of it. And then I'm going to get into the content production with it and be able to start reading chapters, giving away the information for free. What I'd love to do is turn that into revenue production for hard copies of the book, or for education, or for mentoring. But I truly believe that if you know how to interview someone, if you can get out of your own fucking way and shut up every now and again, the interviews are going to be way better. There are too many people out there that are trying to create podcasts because they're chasing a bag, because they want to do what they see Alex Hormozy doing, right? They want to do what they see Gary Vee doing. They have a podcast and then they get these huge brand deals and they make all tons of money. But it all starts with having content that people want to watch. And if you're doing interviews in a way that is all about you and not your guest, no one wants to see that. They're interested in the guest. That's why you're doing the show. So it's a really interesting time. And I know this book is going to help a lot of people. The way that I wrote it, it's broken up. We've talked about this before. It's broken up into chapters that you can read individually so that you don't have to read the whole thing to get the idea. It's all written in kind of like a modular way. I'm tired of getting books that I have to read through the whole thing and not be able to skip around. My ADHD is off the chart. So I like to be able to skip around and look at things differently, find the chapter and just dive in. And I wrote the book in that way so that you can find a topic and dive right in. It's another revenue stream. I'm an affiliate for Adorama, and I'll put some links out for some of the gear that I buy there. And then, like I said, referrals through 17 Hats. So a lot of different brand deals out there already. I was checking, made me a couple $1,000s last year out of barely pushing anything at all. So as I approach the end of the year, I kind of look at, what brought me some money, what didn't. 17 Hats digital goods definitely brought me a cash. I want to say there was $1,000 there, a little above, a little below $1,000 there. The Amazon affiliate stuff has brought me a couple $100. It all adds up. Again, this isn't money where I just sit at home and people just back up Brinks trucks full of money because I put something online. It's not the way it works. But what I'm trying to do is set the stage for what comes down the line. Right? 2026 goals. So I'm taking all these revenue streams and I'm saying, what are the real priorities? How do I really want to look at 2026 as an income producing machine? Especially as I transition from photo into more live streaming and podcasting. Like I said, it will eventually replace the photo stuff, but I'm looking realistically at probably a 12-month time frame for that to happen. So still taking bookings, still get things throughout, December and January. But right now, I'm sinking a lot of time and effort into the live stream because I believe that this is something I'll be able to do for the next decade plus. And that's cool by me. And if I don't start today, then when am I going to start, right? So, okay. So talking about all of that, let's get back to the regularly scheduled program. So in terms of 2026 goals, revenue, right? I'd love to see 250,000 next year. I don't think that that is going to be an insurmountable goal if I get my shit together. I've got the basis. Now I've got to optimize, right? I've already created all of these assets. I've created all of these streams. Now it's time to optimize them. And first, prioritize them. What is going to be first? How am I going to focus on a daily basis? And one of the things that I know I do, if I don't put something on my calendar, it's just not going to happen. So with what I'm trying to do with live streaming and the problem that I fell into with Generator was that I would be consistent for weeks or months, and then something would happen and I didn't have enough episodes in the tank to cover however long I needed to take a break, whether it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. And so it's been 2 weeks since I've put out an episode. It's been, I think, 4 weeks since I've put out an interview episode. Because what I've been trying to do is, as I think about consistency, as I think about you as the audience, as I think about the types of content that I want to bring to you, interviews are one side of what I do. My opinion talking head stuff is another side of what I do. The education and the mentoring is something else as well. That's fact-based. The opinion stuff is more philosophy-based and just kind of the wisdom of doing this for, a couple decades. And then the interviews are all about the guest. So as I think about what I'm doing with this live stream, part of it comes down to consistency. And what I'm trying to do, like I said, is move from recorded interviews to live streams. Have everything be done in one take. I said that at the beginning of this. And the way that I'm going to do it is by saying Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, this is going to be a consistent slot. So if you're sitting around Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, you know that it's going to be time for Generator Live. It will be me sitting here doing as much as I can do, talking about things in a way that I can cut it up into shorts and then be able to release those along with the full episode, both audio and video. Another goal on the YouTube side is 1,000 subscribers, right? I'm at 400 and some odd here on Generator, and I'd like to get to 1,000, right? Can't monetize anything yet. I'm getting close on the watch hours because I had a couple of videos go viral, but I'm not near the number of subscribers. And it's getting a little bit harder and harder to build that audience on YouTube. It just takes more time, more consistency. So in an effort to hit that, there will also be live streams on Friday mornings. 9 o'clock, it'll be an Ask Me Anything every week. Podcasting, video, photography, philosophy, cameras, gear, tech, whatever it is. Friday mornings, 9 o'clock. That's where you can sip your coffee with me, wake up on the last day of the week, and just have a place where we can hang out and test things and try things. So, again, look at this, live thirds, lower thirds, doing it live, trying to figure this out. So Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, Fridays, 9 a.m. Eastern is when I'm going to be producing those shows. So put them on your calendar. I'm going to try to promote them. I suck at social media. I'll be the first to admit it, of keeping people updated. So I want to start producing these calendars. Paul, I think that's going to be great. I'd love to see you there, man. Come hang out with me. John Paul is out there saying, sounds like you're making some great changes. Yeah, man. Like, all of this is about moving forward. and showing everybody how everything gets made. All right. So 2026 goals, let's sum it up. 1,000 people on YouTube, 250K in revenue, making sure that I prioritize the revenue streams and stay consistent with all of my production. I've got so much production lined up. I've got so many videos to make. My Notion database is like this, just chock full of videos to make. And so I can hear the whole Ecamm crew in my head going, well, just make the content. I'm getting there. I'm making the content, believe me. So this is part of that entire process. Other things, like I said, we're looking at secondary cameras, right? This is the YOLO Live S3. That's becoming a secondary camera here at home and will be a primary camera at the studio. Also coming this week will be and I can't wait to compare them side by side, but I've got the YOLO Live S3. I've got a Hollyland 4K camera, the Hollyland Lyra, that should be here tomorrow or Friday. And I wanted to test that out. That also comes with a wireless Bluetooth mic. It doesn't work with any other camera, but it works with the Hollyland Lyra. And I thought that might be a good travel camera. But that's another 4K camera, kind of like the S3. And then yesterday, Monday, what is today? Wednesday? So Monday, I was on the 7-hour live stream with Ecamm where they were doing their Cyber Monday Spectacular. And just through the happenstance of luck and chance, I also won an OBSBOT Meet 2 camera, which is in a similar vein to the YOLO S3, to the Hollyland Lyra. It's another 4K camera with some AI features in it. A lot of capability, a lot of customization. So now I'll have 3 of these 4K webcams. I'll have overhead views and secondary views, and I don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on mirrorless cameras. Like I have the Fuji X-T4, that's what you're looking at me right now, is a Fuji X-T4, so it's an older camera, with a Viltrox 27mm f1.2 lens. It looks beautiful. It's great. The bokeh is just so creamy and like, it's just so nice. And Paul was saying the Meet 2 is what he's, and if you've seen Paul's stream, like it looks beautiful, beautiful. He's got a gorgeous setup anyway. But yeah, being able to use all these $200 webcams that are way better than anything that I've used in the past is only going to serve to make this thing better. My goal here is basically to have a main cam and then an overhead or a secondary cam. At the studio, I want to have a lot of different cameras, a lot of different angles, a lot of interest in the different sets so that you can get a better idea of what happens behind the scenes, different focus on the guests, different focus on me, different, wide scenes. And again, I'm going to pitch Ecamm. So being able to have a secondary camera like this is great. But if I wanted to come in here and then add another camera, right? I can add a secondary camera in like this. I can add in another camera. Let's do another version of this. So imagine that these are all different cameras. If I go into, let's see, if I go into, where's my live demo mode? If I go into live demo mode, can I do that? Oh, I'm streaming. I can't. Can I go into live demo mode? Not working for me. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. With that, you can see, let's see here. I don't know if y'all are seeing anything, but what I was going to do is bring up the camera switcher and, I can bring any cameras on that I want. I can set placeholder cameras. I'm not as good, like you're watching me, and Paul's probably laughing right now. But if you're watching, I haven't mastered the whole live demo mode yet. Cut me some slack. I'm learning. So I'm going to get rid of this camera and this camera. But all I'm saying is I can bring up a bunch of different cameras at once, really create some different scenes. So if I'm doing an interview, I can do something like this. I can turn on and off my logos. I can do my lower thirds. I can do pretty much anything I want. But I want to be able to create production value and give you guys something more interesting to look at. The way that I think about this, right, is if I think about my main objective when I was starting Generator, it had nothing to do with production. It was all about the conversation. I wanted to make sure that a lot of the photographers that everybody loves, the Susan Striplings and Sue Bryce and Nikki Klosser and Erica Manning and Nicole York and Shannon Doherty and Johnny Edward, like all of these amazing photographers, I wanted to get them on to talk about stuff that wasn't necessarily just all photography. I wasn't thinking about production. I wasn't thinking about creating a show. I just wanted to have cool conversations and then be able to publish them for other people to hear. Now I'm thinking more back to my television roots and producing full live shows. One of the things that I loved when I was working for Outside Television was being in the studio in the morning and we'd have probably anywhere between 2 and 5 guests per show. It was like a 2 or 3 hour show. And we'd start at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and then we would go until 8 or 9. And it depended, right? During the week, the lifts would open at like 9 a.m. So we'd go right up until the time the lifts open. And then on the weekends, they opened at 8. So we'd start a little bit earlier and end a little bit earlier. But the cool part about it was we'd always have all these different people join the show. And I loved the live aspect of it. Why? Because once you were done, you were done. You didn't have to think about anything until the next week when you would write your new scripts and I would talk about everything and we'd bring on new guests and it was live interviews and whatever prep I had, and things sometimes went awry. And I'll have to dig up the clip at one point. I lost my shit on air one day and I just started laughing. I got a case of the giggles and it actually made the news here in Maine because I was such an idiot. I had just gotten off the plane from Vegas the night before, flew in, started doing a live show at like 5 a.m. and was just totally brain fried. And I just started giggling because we were talking about massages or spas or something like that. And I just lost my mind. So that's really what I want to get to here is producing a live TV show every week. I'd rather do that than overproduce something that doesn't get the views. I'd rather just be on air all the time and have people watch or not watch. Let's see. What does this say? Sometimes when sideways seem like most, all right, ease up. I didn't say I was good at this. All I'm saying is that I had a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, there was a lot that didn't go well on that show. But we had a blast. We didn't know really what we were doing, except that we knew what we were doing. But we just didn't care. And I don't mean that in a cavalier way. We just didn't care because we wanted it to be real and genuine. And we wanted people that were watching, locally to feel like they were there with us. It was a resort television station. I wasn't on ESPN. And I always thought it was just really, really fun. So I'm glad you did too. It says, Laser Tech's here saying, always enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. And the fact that you're still around, I really appreciate that too. So, that is what was going on with what I'm trying to do with Generator and going live. Additional cameras, live production, upping the production value. Because in 2026, I don't want to be working through all these issues. I'm trying to lock it all in now in December so I don't have to think about 2026. It's just boom, hitting the ground running. So I'm going to move off of what I'm doing in 2026 move into a couple of other things that I've been doing here and that I've mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, but I'm going to bring up now. So what I wanted to show you was a couple of things. I'm going to look over here, and first and foremost, I will bring up the desktop. So just wanted to show you the press release. So Boris FX, if you don't know, Boris FX is, and this is not an ad. This is just me talking about Boris FX. Boris FX is this amazing company. They're actually based out of Boston, which I had no idea. And they've been producing some of the best effects for Hollywood for a lot of years. I'm talking, you know, the glowing swords in Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, Superman, the latest Superman. There was a lot of special effects in there. So they're known for their video effects, their 3D effects. They're really known for being integral to the Hollywood post-production workflow. One of their, well, they have two little known secrets that are essential to my workflow. One is Crumple Pop, which is an audio production plugin for Final Cut, and it's also standalone. And I'm going to go through a whole different video on that in another day. That's not why I'm here. The other thing that is kind of their secret weapon for me is Optics. Now, Optics is not only a standalone application, but it also plugs right into Photoshop. It plugs right into Lightroom. And there are certain things that you can do in those applications. I like using the standalone, and I'm going to show you a couple of things here. If you've known about Optics and you've used the previous versions like 2025, one of the things to know about Optics is that it's so deep, it's so comprehensive, there's so much that you can do with it. It's really mind-blowing. The learning curve is very steep. It's a strange interface. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of filters and effects, and every single one of those is tweakable, and every parameter of every tweak, of every filter, of every thing is capable of being manipulated. Optics, and I said it right here in the press release, right? Press release right here says, as a portrait photographer, I never thought of myself as a digital artist because I didn't. I was a guy that took pictures. I took portraits, and I do some skin retouching in Photoshop, but that was it. I was not a composite artist. I'm not someone that does a lot of filtering in Photoshop. I don't do a lot of digital art. I like the idealistic craft of photography where I get it in camera, and then digital is digital. I do minor tweaking. Maybe it's a bit of color grade. Maybe it's a little bit of contrast. But I like getting in camera the photo that I want. With Optics, I've been able to become a digital artist, or at least what I see as a digital artist and what it means to me. I am not in any way, shape, or form comparing myself to real digital artists like Renee Robin or Jake Hicks or Nino Batista or Dennis Dunbar or any of these people that make their living being digital artists. It's not me. What I like to do is I like to have fun. And I know a lot of people that wish they could have fun too and play with products that, while they may have a learning curve, are going to allow you to create differently. And isn't that kind of what we all want? We just want to get out of these creative ruts where we take the same picture with the same backdrop and the same lighting, and we never do anything different to it. And it always just kind of looks flat. Well, with 2026 and Boris FX Optics, they've come out with so many new tools and so many new filters and so many new variants that it's worth diving into. And you can get free trials. I'll have affiliate links in the show notes if you want to use my affiliate link and maybe get me a little bit of a commission or a referral. That'd be awesome. But I'd say just try it anyway. I'm going to show you a couple of things that just came out in the 2026 version that made a huge difference for me as to how I approach my post-processing. So with that, I'm going to dive into optics. And this is an image that I took not too long ago, a couple months ago, with my friend Amanda. And we were doing this kind of boudoir shoot. And I just want to show you some of the things that optics is capable of. Now, this image, as you're seeing it, is absolutely 100% out of the camera, untouched. This is out of a Fuji H2S with the classic neg film simulation. This is straight out of the camera. So I've touched nothing. I came into Boris FX, and if you know the old version of Boris FX, their navigation was horrendous, especially for a portrait photographer. Everything was there, but you kind of had to know where everything was, right? It's kind of like the engineers and the geeks took over, and it all makes sense to them. But for laymen that are just looking for lens flares or glows or diffusion or mist filters or whatnot, it was almost impossible to find unless you knew exactly where things were. And that's what happens over time, is you finally learn where things are. Or you create custom presets or favorites or all of that. So for me, one of the biggest changes that they made this year, and I really, really love it, is they changed the whole navigation area over here. So now they've got collections, but not only the collections, you've got your essentials tab here, which is kind of like if you only had the essentials panel as a portrait photographer doing the kind of work that I do and that a lot of you do, this is all you need. And the filters that they have here are so comprehensive. So I'm going to walk you through maybe how I do a little bit of this editing on this image. Now, I love the image as it is. Don't get me wrong. I think it's beautiful. I think it's real. I think it's kind of one of those stolen moments. This was not posed. This was an in-between moment. So what I'll do, this works very much like Photoshop, where we just add in a layer, and now I can go through and choose any one of these things. So you have the essentials panel, you have portraits, landscapes, cinematic effects, right? On and on and on, all the way down. I'm going to stick in this essentials panel right now, just to make sure that you're kind of following along some of the easy stuff. So if I were to add something like a film stock, right? And here's the great thing about Boris FX is that they've got all of these real film stocks. So if I want Agfa 400, if I want Eastman Tri-X, if I want Ektachrome, let's see, Eastman Plus X 35 millimeter, Fuji Velvia, right? You can come and choose the film stock that you love, that gets you closer to your vision. And these are the real film stocks, right? So like on their mist filters, if you've ever gotten a mist filter or a neutral density filter, a lot of them made by Tiffin or Hoya, and there's a billion companies out there. But in the mist filters specifically, right, they've got black mist filters, cool mist, warm mist. If I add a black mist filter on, these are literally, they worked with Tiffin on creating these filters. So what you get in optics is exactly what you would get with a hardware filter. So shoot what you got, save a little bit of money on buying filters, and use what they got here. And you can tweak however you want to tweak it. Okay. So I save my mist as kind of like a finishing touch towards the end to just remove some of the digital stuff that I've created. Here's what I want to show you. What we're going to do is search for smoke and fog. Okay. Now, if I look at this, I'm just using their default smoke and fog filter, and it kind of washes it over everything. Well, I don't want it over everything. I just kind of want it in the background. So one of the things in 2026 that came around was the depth ML mask. ML standing for machine learning, AI, right? So if I come in here and I want to add a mask, you've got depth map, Easy Mask, Face ML, which I'll also show you. The Easy Mask is the easiest possible way to mask an image, and it's really powerful and really smart. I'm going to show you that in a second, but let's choose the Depth Map ML. And what it's going to do is show you the far point and the near point, and you can change these. And you can see in the mask, if I change over to M, if I start to move these points, you can see what happens to the mask. So if I say this is the near point, it's going to get everything there. But if I bring it more towards her face as the nearest part of the image, this is what's going to be affected. And the far point, that back of that wall, right? That far point is what the fog will not be seen on. Well, I don't want that. I don't want just smoke on her, because if I look at this and I do that, well, now there's no smoke in the back, but there's smoke all over her. So what are we going to do? We're going to invert the mask. Come up here to the top and you press invert mask. And now the smoke is according to that depth map, right? Maybe we change the map so that it's on less of her, right? This is kind of where it started at the beginning. And now there's less. But if I bring it up here, you can see how it's affecting the mask in real time. So I'm just going to put it here-ish. Right, do that because I want it off of her. Now, one of the cool things is if I look at that smoke, the white just feels too bright. So if I wanted to, I could change the opacity of it, which going that high is not going to be real. I can change the density of it, right? Maybe I want a denser smoke. But for me, I think if I were to change the color of this and bring it down to something more like a cyan, maybe in this range-ish here, and I click OK. Now, if you look at what the smoke is doing, it's got that subtle cyan tinge to it. So it add a little bit of contrast, darken things down a little bit. But the great part is if I don't want all that, I can also adjust the opacity and just add in however much I want. So I'm going to drop this down to about 70%. I kind of like that. If I wanted to see what it looked like side by side, I can just drag it down and you can see how that cyan fog smoke affects the background, right? How it might affect some of the hair highlights. I think it's kind of cool. So that's one thing, the Depth ML, which is just really, really powerful. Really like this. So, okay, so we're going to do that. Now, if I take this, and I'm just going to delete this mask, okay? And I'm going to stay on this layer. We're going to remask some stuff. Let's say I wanted to add some light in, and I want to look at the portraits. Let's look at portraits. So let's make this, I don't know, we'll go into S-Beauty. And S-Beauty is going to have all these different filters here. There's color correct, there's, red to blue, there's glowing greens, pale and Scottish, smoother skin. All right, so let's say smooth and creamy. And that's not really doing a ton. I want to do something that'll show you what's happening here. So maybe we go to the beauty studio and we do subtle smoothing. Trying to find something that, okay. You know what? Since you're watching, let's do this instead. Let's do skin tone. I wanted something that'll really kind of pop, right? So forgive me, Amanda, I'm going to screw up your skin, but this is what we're doing. So if you see that, I added Skin Tone 3, which is adding a wash to the entire image. Now, I don't want that. I just want to affect her skin tone, right? Because I like the way the rest of the image looks. I just want to keep her from looking maybe so pale. Maybe it's the end of the summer. She wants a little bit more of a glow. So this is where the masking, the easy mask really, really works. So I'm going to add an easy mask. If you're familiar with masking in Photoshop, this is going to blow your mind. So the way that we do this in Boris FX is we've applied the easy mask. So now I have to define what I want the mask to show and what I don't want it to show. So when I clicked on the depth map ML a few minutes ago, that did the machine learning and created the mask. Here, I'm going to use an easy mask. So I use the left mouse button to define with this green the skin areas that I want the skin tone filter to affect, right? So I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to add it to here, or hand, and here, but I don't want it. I'm using the right mouse button now to add red and basically say I don't want anything up in here. I don't want this. I don't want down here, but I don't want any of the dress, right? So just adding in things like this. Now, when I hit enter, it will check the mask. And now if I look at the mask over here, right? We come back here. If I look at the mask, this is what it looks like. And this is where the skin tone is going to be applied. Maybe I don't want it on the inside of her eye, right? So I don't want her eyes looking orange like a skin. So we're just going to take that out. Make sure we add this and take that out. So this is all looking pretty good, right? But we're going to regenerate that mask to take that out. So now when I come back here and I'm going to turn that mask on and off, you can see now the skin tone adjustment is only on her skin, and I can adjust that opacity up and down. And now it's only affecting her skin. And this is way, way faster for me than Photoshop. Now that I've got that mask created, I can go and jump through all these different skin tones, right? And obviously, I'm just doing things dramatically for effect. But you can see how subtle or how intense you want it to be. I love this. I love the easy mask for any type of image, whether it's landscape, portrait, architecture, right? Street photography. I love being able to create a mask that quickly and have it look really, really good with the fall off, with the gradients. Here's something that most people don't know about. Preserve the highlights, right? So you have this preserve highlights slider. Slide that all the way up. Now, as you adjust the intensity, it doesn't seem so cartoonish, right? And you can go a little bit deeper and you can see now it's just a much more natural effect on the skin, right? So yeah, it's awesome. I love this. Now, the cool thing too, as you get better and better with optics, is that you start combining all of these techniques, right? So now for, let's say, I want to now go back and add some film damage. Maybe I want to turn it into CSI Miami. I did not add a new layer, Matt. What are you doing? Jesus, Matt, what are you doing? Let's find that film damage again. And now I find things, here's a great example of dirty film. You can change your stain density. You can change your dust density. You can change, how many hairs are on that film, right? The vignette, You can flip things around. Man, I love this program so much. It's opened up so many creative avenues for me to be able to come in here, play with things that I want to play with, see things in a different way, get exposed to different versions of images that I wouldn't know to even think of creating otherwise. So that's a couple of things. That's Depth ML. That's the easy mask. I'll come back another time with Face ML, and I'll show you some of my other tips and tricks here in Optics. But one of the things that I really like are the looks. So looks are your custom presets, for example. I know I'm not using the Boris FX terminology, but for all intents and purposes, looks are the combination of this sidebar, all those layers that you create. It is what creates a specific look. So if you wanted to do something with subtle color grading and then apply it to a bunch of images, you can just create a look, and anytime you bring in that image in, you can just apply the look, make a couple of tweaks, and you're done. I use them a lot as starting points, and then I tweak masks or I take away layers or add layers, but it always gives me a pretty good starting point. So I'm going to delete a couple of layers here, and we're going to stay with this. We're going to stay with this image, and I'm just going to apply a look. And let's do greenish film. And you can see it added in all of the layers with the effects applied. Obviously, the masks don't match, so I would recreate the masks. But let's see. Space Girl and let's see, Allison Gold. I'm just cycling through some of the ones that I had, right? Let's try Purple Wings Grindhouse, right? Beige painted canvas. Okay, here's something kind of cool. Let's work with this. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to delete all these masks. And if you notice, this basically what this look is doing is applying something to the background and keeping the subject out of it. So what we're going to do is delete this mask, and we'll delete all masks, and delete mask, and delete mask. Okay, so now starting down here on the grunge layer, I'm going to create a mask, and we're just going to do an easy mask. So remember, we want it all in the background. We want it all in the background. We do not want it on our subject. So we'll just mask this all out. Don't want it on any of this. Cover that up. But I do want it on all the background. Right? Okay, so we'll produce that mask with an easy mask. And now you can see, if I turn that mask on and off, what it's doing. It's bringing Amanda out of that backdrop. Now, all I'm going to do with this is option copy it to all of these. Look at the top layer. Shut this off. Come up here. Now, I'll shut these off one by one. Show you what's happening. So here's basically where we started. Right? Here's the original image. Then I added a neutral density gradient to it. Here comes the grunge in the background. There's a bit more photographic. It's doing a very, very, very subtle darkening. Another layer of that. Then I added a film stock to it. And then finally a black mist filter. Now, this is not the image for this particular look, right? I see that. What I'm showing you is how easy it is to take some of these looks and produce something that you love, and then be able to apply that to any other image that you want, and you make some subtle tweaks, okay? So let's try one more thing here. I'll show you the image that I created, and I'll show you the application of a look. Okay, so here's my friend Allison. Shot this a couple months back. Beautiful image. This is straight out of the camera. Again, Fuji. This is the classic neg film simulation, and I absolutely love this image. I think it looks beautiful. But what can we do? So with 2026, and Renee Robin's going to hate me for showing you this, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. This is the look that I created. Now, I know from the standpoint of wings, it's kind of like a 1997 DeviantArt thing, right? And there was a resurgence in the portrait community a couple of years back, and everybody was buying big flowered wings and all this sort of stuff. And it can be fun, right? Especially in a situation like this where it's not a piece other than let's get a real person in for a photo shoot and let's make them some art, right? They might not see otherwise. This isn't a competition image. This isn't meant for anything other than to show my client, hey, let's do some fun stuff with your imagery. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to shut all of these layers off and show you how I brought everything into this look, just to show you what optics is doing, okay? So with this, here's where we originally started. I then did an auto adjust layer and really just let that tweak the lighting and the contrast the way that it wanted to. Then I added in some selective saturation on her skin because I wanted that skin to start playing off of that color science, a little blue in the dress, a little bit more orange in the skin, knowing that this was not complete yet. I wanted to add in some fog as a little bit of a glow around her because I had this idea and I kept building towards it. Then I added in these wings. Now, again, wings are what wings are, but because I can come in here, I can adjust how the wings look. I can make them larger or move them, right? Say I want to make them a little bit larger and come out of that dress a little bit more. Maybe I blur them out a little bit more. I like having a bit more of that detail in the crunch, but I want to soften it just a little bit. And maybe they're a little bit too bright and I want to bring them down a little bit. So there's a lot that you can do with just that one thing. Now, all of those wings, right? You've got fur, you've got glass, there's like 160 new gobos in here that we can use. So let's say I didn't like the wings and I wanted instead to add a moon, right? Maybe a lighthouse because we're here in Maine, right? And I want to move it off to the side and say, I like this one. We're in Maine. We're going to move this off to the side. And she's this wind-swept heroine of this story. And you can see as I drag it around, I have the mask so that it's not on the ground. It's just on the background. Cool. So let's make this a little bit smaller so you see the top of that lighthouse. Cool. Let's keep moving on. Let's bring some clouds in. Maybe I add some colored gels, a little lens flare up in the right, add a little bit more vignette to add some drama. I do a little bit of a spotlight, which you can see right about the top, right around the top. That's with it on. Add a little film damage to make it even more dramatic. Use one of the film stocks, which is kind of like a grindhouse effect. And then I added in a little bit of ambient light to bring her back to the front. So this is just one look, and I can apply this to anybody. And I love it, and it's easy. And this is Boris FX Optics 2026. I'm telling you, if you're a Photoshop nerd, give it a try. It plugs right in. All you do is take your image in Photoshop, make it a smart object, bring it over into Boris FX, and play with it. And quite frankly, the way that it's set up now, 2026, is that plugin is even better. And you can do a lot of this stuff in Photoshop using the control panel that you have here. So not everything can be done, but it makes it a lot easier, especially if you create looks or specific filters that you use a lot. You can just access those directly in Photoshop, and it's super easy. So, all right, that's that. So awesome. I got to test it. I love the people at Boris FX, just a good company with good people, really trying to do things that are beyond just the scope of Hollywood. So that's where myself and Bella Kotak and Jake Hicks and so many other amazing photographers that I can't even believe I'm in the company of, that contributed to how this looks and feels and these new releases for optics. Very honored to be part of that. Very humbled to be part of that. So love doing this, but it's really reignited a lot of the spark in my own work because of how easy it is to play with this stuff and really start to take my images in different directions that I wouldn't think of otherwise, because my brain just doesn't work that way. All right. That's Boris FX. We talked about moving generator to the live shows. We've talked about using Ecamm, using the YOLO Live S3 camera as a secondary camera, about doing things with lights, about how I use software, about the gear that I'm buying. All this feels really scattered. But what I'm doing is bringing you inside. And so I want to start making sure that we go on this journey together. This isn't about me being perfect every week and putting things out that are so polished that you think I have some big team. I don't. This is just me. So until the day that I do have a team, I'm going to show you what I'm learning along the way. But I'm going to encourage you every step of the way to look into some of these pieces of software that I'm using, because I've used everything out there. I buy subscriptions, I get trials, I test things, I break them, I realize that it's not the workflow that I like. I've gotten rid of things because I don't like how they name files, but it's all in particular to me and my workflow. So I'm just going to keep recommending the things that I like, the things that I use. And if you like it, great. If you don't, debate me, talk to me, open my eyes. I'm all about learning. So this is just the way that I do things. Doesn't mean it's right. But what it is a way. And I'm not charging you for it because I don't believe in that. I don't want to gatekeep anything here. But if you do want to do that, if you want to spend your money, then hire me. I'll teach you all sorts of shit. All right. Where are we at? We're at about an hour and a half. I think that's plenty for tonight. All right, so Wednesday night, 7 p.m., start marking it on your calendar, because that's when I'm going to be doing these lives. Hopefully, I'll start bringing some guests on, right? And I've got a lot of special guests lined up. They don't know when they're going to be on, but I'm going to be bringing them on. But Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock, Friday mornings at 9 a.m., come have coffee with me. We'll do a little bit more of this. We'll play around. We'll test some things, and we'll just create a better show overall. I really, really, really want to thank people like Paul for coming in. Paul Duncan's like the OG, man. He is the internet. And I got a story from my Cisco days that I'll bring you in on at some point, but I'm not going to embarrass Paul right now. Until Friday, start thinking about what it is that you want to do with your streams, with your content. Where are you going in 2026? What goals are you setting? Push yourself until you're scared to death of what you've planned, and then go a little bit further. That's how you get to where you want to go. This comfort zone thing just isn't working. So I'm not going to do it anymore. But anyway, thanks for hanging out tonight. I appreciate you all so much. Come back on Friday morning at 9. Skip that meeting. Skip the TPS reports. Come hang out with me. It's going to be a great time. And until then, I'll talk to you later. Bye.